and for clearing whatever, for this next hour, clearing that time in your schedule to be here. Hopefully we won't take the whole hour. There's a lot of work to do as far as filling out paperwork if you have to fill out your clearances, which is really, this is a big year for clearances for us. We have a lot of folks whose clearances have expired, and so this is a must to get that taken care of and filled in. And then, of course, the manual you have is so this is the same manual. We've made some minor adjustments each year. And so even if you've gone through this manual and you understand it, man, there are some basic things in here that people still have questions with. And so because it's not something you deal with all the time, and so reviewing it is very important. And so thank you for making the time to be here. I do want to say a special shout out to Laura for assembling all this material for us. I mean, really, it's not just, this isn't just an hour's worth of work to get ready for this. This has been really Monday and Tuesday. She spent a monumental amount of time each day preparing for the meeting here today. So thank you, Laura, for prepping and making our lives a lot easier. So anyhow, I'm not going to say any more because people who actually have something to say are going to say something. So, but I'm going to pray. All right, so join me in prayer. Jesus, thank you, Lord, for this staff, for the workers here, Lord, as we prepare for this next year. And Lord, as we fill out these clearances, Lord, as that will be good for a couple of years, we thank you for the ability to minister to children, to teenagers, to young adults, Lord, to adults, and help us to be able to minister properly and to the best of our ability. And we thank you, Lord, for the tradition, the great tradition of service that's here at Greenridge. And I pray a blessing on everyone that made the effort to make it here tonight, and encourage them. Bless the ones who are sharing what needs to go through as well, and bless this night. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Pastor Mia?
Thank you. I welcome everyone. So you all got your folders as you came in, so lovingly put together and prepared by Miss Laura. So as Pastor Dave said, this is a big clearance renewal year. So as we're going through the meeting, go ahead and start filling those things out as we're going through things and reviewing things. And it should be pretty self-explanatory. But if you do have any questions, raise a hand, and we'll see if we can help you out with that. There is there the paper at the back of this packet too that they have to sign? Yes. So on top of the clearances also, there is a paper at the back of your risk packet. So as we go through this packet, there's a paper at the back for you to sign that you've gone through it, yada yada. So make sure that paper also gets signed, and you can tear it off the back and turn it in when you turn in all of your clearance papers at the end. Also, those of you who have not done so yet, if you're available to help for VBS, hopefully you got a VBS volunteer application as well. So go ahead and make sure you fill that out as we're going through. That's something big coming up in just over a month here. We're going to be getting all our ducks in a row. It's a very long week. It's very exciting. The kids look forward to it. We already have parents from the area who have been asking if we're doing our camp this year. They call it a camp because we have them from morning through lunch into the afternoon. So it I'm sure it feels like a camp for them. But so be sure to fill that out as well. And if you have any questions about that as well, you can ask me at the end of the meeting. Just a couple things I wanted to personally touch on before I hand it over to my lovely mother. Anyone who specifically works in the children's ministry, I know we do have some of you here who work with the youth. Kudos to you. That's amazing. You're braver than I am. But for those who work in the children's ministry, I just wanted to touch on a couple things. One, if you've been downstairs in the past couple weeks, you may have noticed some no cell phone signs that have been posted in the classroom. You may recognize they look like the ones from Luke's Diner in Gilmore Girls. That's where they're from, just for fun. They weren't put there to be, aggressive or mean. Basically everyone has a cell phone. All right, I'm not going to come around and collect your cell phones every Sunday while you're serving. It's just a gentle reminder that, you know, while we have these kids in our care for the 2 hours of service or more, depending on how much Pastor Dave has to say, we do want our focus to be on the kids. So they're just there to serve as a reminder. You know, it's not the time to go on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or anything. Okay, don't make any TikTok videos with the kids. Okay, you know, but keep our focus there. If you do need to answer a call that's coming in, if you have something going on, that's understandable. Like I said, I'm not going to collect your phone, but we do want to make sure we're keeping our focus on the kids that we are serving during that time. And one other thing I wanted to put out there, we have anyone who's worked with kids in the past few years realizes that a lot of the dynamic and amount of kids with special needs has increased a lot. And so I know for myself personally, I went to college for education. I learned about working with kids with special needs, but I graduated college in 2010. That was a long time ago. A lot has changed in 14, has it been 14 years? I actually had to come to grips with that just now. So I am going to be doing some research myself into looking into some trainings for myself to kind of have some information that I can then pass on to our volunteers to kind of help you feel the best equipped so that any child that comes through our doors, no matter what their needs are, we're able to welcome them and be prepared to give them, you know, share the love of Jesus and just give them a great experience while they're in our care. So if there's anyone who has, in the less than the last 14 years, had any kind of training and would have anything they could share with me, you can message me or talk to me after as well. Or any questions that you have, feel free to ask me later as well. Or Pastor Dave. Yeah. Well, that's what Pastor Dave just said, that there's a lot of churches that don't accept kids with special needs, which is, I can't even wrap my head around that. I understand it's challenging. It's hard if you don't know what to do. So that's why we're going to do our best to make sure we know what to do, so that every kid or teen who comes in is welcome. And we've had calls come in or messages come in of parents asking, hey, my kid has this, are they allowed to come? Where I was like, yes, please, please come, bring them. They can absolutely come. And it is a challenge, but it's a challenge that we really need to be able to take on. So that is all that I personally have to say. So I'm going to turn it over to the fabulous Miss Laura, who gave me my good looks for the rest of this.
Yeah, she has to say that I'm good looking because people tell her she looks like me. So she has to convince herself then that she is also good looking. So no, she's beautiful. All my children are beautiful. So anyway, just to refocus you, let you take a breath for a second. As a thank you for your service and for coming to the meeting this evening, and anyone who watches this training later, when all your paperwork is turned in, we have a little gift for you. Maybe I'll have my daughter be Vanna. Can you pop that open for me? This is like a little salad type container. So it has this neat little salad dressing thing with a lid and a little tray, and it has a spork. You can't get any better than a spork. So, and then a nice deep bowl. So we have this for you, or if you're like, heck no, I don't eat salad. Or do I want that unless it's full of candy? We also have cups. We gave these away a couple years ago, but we have some extra. So if you're like, I really don't want that salad thing, you can have one of these cups. Or you lost yours since 2 years ago, you can do that as well. So Just a little way for us to say thank you for you giving your time, and she's done a lovely job. Thank you, Vanna. All right. Well, as is my usual, it is my goal to go through this as quickly and painlessly as possible. Unfortunately, it's a necessity. It's not something that we can skirt around. We're mandated by the state to do these trainings. Each year, like some of you have been serving for years, and I handed you like a volunteer application. We're finding that we're also required to have those on file, newly signed each year, that this person is still volunteering, still willing to serve, whatever. So that's why that is in your packet. I did my very best to make your packet specific to you, what you needed. And like Pastor Dave said, unfortunately, this year we have hit our 5-year loop. So a lot of you who have done clearances already with us, they have expired. So we're going to need to file all new clearances. If it makes you feel any better, you will fill these forms out once for the next, and they're good for 5 years. For each of you that fills the form out, I will be filling it out online. So if you're doing it once and there are 30 people who need them, I'm doing them 30 times. So if that, not to pat myself on the back, but just make you feel a little better about having to fill out that paper. Okay, I only have to do it once. I don't have to do it 30 times. So take a breath, and it'll be okay. As I try to keep things moving, I will take a break after certain spaces in the book, because we'll have completed a section. If you have a question about that section at that time, we'll take that question. If you think of it and we get to the next section, hold it till the end, so that this way we can stay focused, we can keep moving, and like I said, get done as quickly and painlessly as possible to get you guys out of here. Okay? All right, so we are going to open up our table of contents. You'll notice on the bottom there, it says revised May of 24. So we are required to review our manual, and we have reviewed it, and we have updated a couple of things. I will point those things out to you as we go, so you don't have to be like, oh my gosh, I have to read the whole thing and see what's new. I'm going to try to make that a little easier for you. So, all right, so on page 1 of our policies and procedures, working with minors. I'm going to read this whole thing just because we have to. Striving for a safe, secure environment for minors, which is any person under the age of 18 and/or who is still in high school who participate in our programs, we have established the following policies and procedures. These guidelines are also designated as a safeguard to our church and all that work with minors. An advisory committee shall be appointed by the pastor to oversee the administration of the policies and procedures contained herein. This committee shall periodically review this document and its implementation. This document does not create an employment contract between those working with the church minors and the church. These policies and procedures are in place for church-sponsored events only. A church-sponsored event is defined as one that appears on the main administrative calendar maintained by the church executive administrator. So if you, especially those of you who work with teens, this will probably apply more to you, or Jonathan, even for you with the young adults. If your event, if you do something that is not on the calendar, that has not been planned, you have voided yourself from being covered by any church insurance. So that is why it's so important that if you're going to do something, you need to get it through me, get it on the calendar, because that is what our insurance is going to ask if something happens on that event. Okay, so like even we have folks that borrow our church van. If I don't have that on our calendar, even though I've let them have it, I have to write it on the calendar, or our insurance can say, well, how do we know this was a church-sanctioned event and they just didn't take it? And then they want you to then pay for whatever damages or whatever happens. So please, 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 if you want to do something with the students or plan an event, please talk to me, make sure I get it on our calendar. That is for your benefit and for ours with the insurance. Those are the questions they're going to ask. Okay. Screening. Each person working with minors at our church will be required to complete and submit the children/youth volunteer application to the requesting department leader. The executive administrator shall maintain both an active and inactive file for all who work with minors. Just highlighting the 3 clearances that we're required to do are criminal history from the Pennsylvania State Police, child abuse history clearance, or some people will call it a CAHC, from the Department of Human Services, and a fingerprint or affidavit. So if you are wondering, what do I need to do? If you have not lived in the state of Pennsylvania for the last 10 years, you have to have been here as a resident for the last 10 years from when you're applying to volunteer, to just do an affidavit. If you moved into the area recently, you're only here 4 years or 5 years, then if you're having direct supervision of a minor, we are required to fingerprint, to do the fingerprint process. Anybody, I don't think we really have anybody that's going to fall into that category right now, but if we ever do, we walk you through that process. That is not something that you have to do on your own. Okay? All right, so we're going to skip over to page 2. To the worker policies. Unfortunately, this is another page we have to read all the way through, so hang on, I will read as fast and as clearly as I can. All workers are required to attend a minimum of 2 services per month in which you are not serving. I will make a little caveat here. If you are part of the tech team, and you are serving, obviously you are fully focused on the service. So we're not saying that you have to come to another service. But if you are here and you're downstairs working with the children on a Sunday morning, obviously you are not in service. All right, so there are some changes there that the application is a little different depending on where you serve. Excuse me. Our church does not approve of a worker spending time alone with a minor during any church-sponsored activity. This will provide protection for you and the minor. You should also never represent the church. You should never meet with a minor alone representing the church outside of a church activity. So again, this probably pertains more to youth workers than to children's workers. You are not allowed to call a student and offer to take them for coffee alone. Okay, that's a big, big no-no. Even though it's not a church-sponsored activity, they see you and their parents see you as a representative of the church. And again, if you do something like that, you have now removed yourself from the protection of the church. Okay, so if you have a car accident while you have that student out or anything like that, it's going to all be on you. Okay, because the church will not cover that. The church's insurance will not cover that. All right, so even though it says church-sponsored activity, please, you should not be spending time alone with a minor as a representative of the church in any capacity. Our church does not approve of a worker having private text, direct message, or phone communication with a minor. Adult workers should not request to friend, follow, etc. a minor on any social media platform. Somebody's going to ask me, well, what if they request me to be their friend? That is a whole different thing. Okay, they are requesting you. You are not pursuing them. You do not appear to be a predator. Okay, so if there are ways to work through that. If you have any specific questions about that, youth leaders, I will be happy to work with you if you're having a communication with students. All right. Each worker/minor involvement must include 3 persons in any of the following combinations: 1 worker or 2 minors, or 2 workers, 1 minor. We call this throughout the manual the 3-person rule. Workers may not appoint additional workers who have not been properly screened. Any unlicensed individual may not bear firearms or weapons of any nature on the premises of our church or any church-sponsored activity. Permitted weapons must be secured when serving. Ladies especially, your weapon is not secure if it's in the bottom of your purse and your purse is on top of the cabinet in the classroom. That is not considered a secured weapon, all right? They should not be anywhere. I mean, honestly, one of my grandchildren, if a purse was on top of a cabinet, could be in it and gone in 30 seconds. And, you know, anything from your purse could be missing, including your weapon. Okay, so please be mindful of that. We do not stop permit carriers from carrying, but you must be thinking about the students when you are carrying, all right? Individuals under the influence of drugs or alcohol may be asked not to participate. Our church is a non-smoking, non-vaping facility. Leaders who smoke and or vape should refrain from doing so when representing the church. Above all, communicate love and respect to each student. Do not show favoritism. Parents who serve, remember your favoritism can be positive or negative towards your child. Don't expect more from them than you expect from another student, because they're your kid and you think they should know better. If they're a 14-year-old kid, they're a 14-year-old kid. Give them room to grow and to make mistakes, okay? Don't be a helicopter parent. All right, we'll move on. Where am I? Okay, it is important for all volunteers to establish a good working relationship with one another. Maintain a spirit of unity. Remember, young children and some youth are forming first impressions of God, church, and Christian love through your words and actions. Exhibiting a proper attitude is required. Realize that same way that children will pit parents against each other when they want their way, they will pit leaders against each other when they want their way, okay? Do not bring your own children who are not the appropriate age for the area in which you are serving to your service area without approval of the department coordinator. Once you have arrived in your service area, please silence your cell phone and put it away. Give the children or youth your undivided attention. Except in an emergency, do not take any student out of their designated area. All volunteers must be in place 15 minutes before each service and ready to begin at the scheduled start time. Children need to see the same workers regularly. Your commitment is important. Please call your area coordinator if you cannot come at your scheduled time. Be flexible and sensitive to parents' needs and requests. All ECD volunteers are asked to change diapers. We must respect every parent's preference of cloth, disposable, or pull-ups. ECD and Children's Ministry, for anybody new, I'm sorry, Early Childhood Department, ECD, and Children's Ministry volunteers are not allowed to bring any outside food or beverages into the ECD or Children's Ministry for the children. This includes food and or candy to be used as prizes. Food should not be an incentive for good behavior. Snacks and water are provided. Personal pre-filled drink containers are allowed. No food or drinks brought by a parent or guardian for the class should be distributed without the express permission of the department coordinator. Your department coordinator should know their medical needs. If they have allergies or things like that, the last thing we want is to need to get an EpiPen for somebody because we gave them something they shouldn't have had, and we didn't know that, but the coordinator should know. Volunteers are not permitted to hold anything shared by a student in confidence. Information shared by students should be discussed with a staff member as soon as possible. In the Catholic Church, it's called the confidence of the confessional, where a priest holds things in confidence. As volunteers, if you hold vital information about a student in confidence, you now have removed yourself from the church's umbrella of liability. Those things need to be reported to one of the staff members as soon as possible, so that the proper measures can be taken. Now, I'm not talking about abuse. We're going to cover that later. Again, this kind of goes more towards young adults and teenagers. If we have a student who comes to a leader and says, you know, I've considered harming myself in some shape or form, you need to report that. You cannot hold that in confidence to yourself, because if anything happens to that student, like I said, and the family comes back and says, oh, we found a paper that says they wrote down that they told so-and-so that this was how they were feeling. If you have not reported that to your upline, unfortunately, according to our insurance and according to the state, you are on your own. All right, so please protect yourself and protect our students, and bring that information forward if they come and speak to you privately. Also, in some of those situations, youth leaders, please do not use the rule of 3 by bringing in another student into that situation. If we have somebody who is, you know, sitting and talking to an adult leader about the fact that they are hurting themselves in some way, shape, or form, and you think you need a rule of 3 by bringing in another student, you are exposing that student to something horrific that they should not be hearing. They may have never heard anything like this before. We do not want that experience to happen here. So please use caution, kind of know what where the student's going before you pull in another student as your rule of three. Okay? All right. So, any questions then on policies that we've hit so far? Oh, good. You guys are good. All right. We're going to move on, and this part will go much quicker because there's not a lot that I have to read every single word going from here on out. Discipline procedures. Never use corporal punishment. Examples, spanking, slapping, etc. Even we're talking about special needs children, you should never lay your hand on them because that may be a trigger for them and you may totally set them off. Okay? Unless, if I had a student actually a couple years ago at VBS who was in the parking lot. We were out there doing the pie thing, and that student didn't want to be with everyone. So I said, well, that's fine. You just need to be on this side of the vans because we were using them to block the roadway so that cars wouldn't run over them. Just stay on this side of the van. I knew the child had special needs, so I was giving them their space. The child then proceeded to go around the van and head towards the street. I laid my hands on them, okay, because I was not going to take the chance that child was going to get hurt running into the road, all right? But in a situation where the child was safe and contained, I would have continued to talk, not touch, all right? So be mindful, especially if you're dealing with special needs kids, about putting your hands on the children, all right? And we never, ever, ever discipline by humiliation. We have a number call system. The box is there by the speaker on the wall, that little black box. So when you're handing the parent or guardian, whoever's dropping the child off, the number, that number, if that child needs you, will appear in that box. All right, so that's something like if you have a new person bringing a child and they're signing them in downstairs, make sure you say to them, there's a little box upstairs. And if we need you, this number will come up there, and then you need this number to get the child back at the end of the day, okay? I know some people were not 100% sure what that meant, and so we wanted to make sure that that's clear. The box to put the number into that display is in the play yard down in the early childhood department, okay? And if you need any help figuring out how to work that, I'm sure Pastor Mia will be happy to show you. She's usually the one that's around down there. If you can't find somebody downstairs to help you, find me and I'll come down and teach you how to use it, okay? When we have, I'll hold off on that. Okay, classroom maintenance procedures. Pick up the toys on a regular basis. That does not mean throughout the class because they're just going to pull them out again, okay? At the end of class, pick them up, put them back on the shelves. Pastor Mia is not as crazy as I am about where they go. I'd probably have pictures for you on the shelf saying, this truck goes right here. This is where this truck belongs. She doesn't care. As long as it's on the shelf, she's a happy girl. So that'll be very helpful to her. And we should always, no matter what we're using in the building or where we're using the building, even if it's not for children's ministry or youth ministry, the better than I found it rule. All right, that's a good rule to carry with you everywhere. Anytime you're anywhere, always leave the space better than you found it. Okay, any questions on discipline or any of that kind of fun stuff? Awesome. Okay, child abuse policy is on page 4. This stuff can get very in-depth, so I will let you read that yourselves. We'll go through. If you have any questions at the end or whatever about any of the mandated reporter things or things like that, we can definitely go over those. But we've hit these a lot, so unless you're absolutely new, I can't see any point spending a lot of time on those tonight. Minors, anyone under 18 who is serving in our children's ministry, you are not a mandated reporter, okay? So you do not have this packet that talks about frequently asked questions about mandated reporting. All right. Everyone who's an adult has these, and there's a whole list in there. If you're like, I'm not sure if I'm a mandated reporter, that little packet has a whole list. So I'm sure if you are one, you will find yourself in that list somewhere. So please, though, if you take them home and you go over them and you're like, I just didn't really understand this part or whatever, please ask Pastor Mia, ask myself, Pastor Heather, Pastor John. Will be happy to go over those things with you. I'm not saying Pastor Dave, not because he doesn't know, but because he's got a whole lot of other things to be thinking about and people to be talking to, and he really doesn't need you to ask him at the door if you're a mandated reporter, okay? So we'll save him from that on a Sunday morning. Okay, moving on then. Emergency and safety issues. We talked about the number call system, fire and other emergency evacuations. We do not want to bring the children this way into mayhem if there is a reason to leave the building. So in the lower auditorium, there is an exterior door that goes out to a staircase. You will take the children up the staircase. Also, please take your roll book. Take your roll book with you because you can count heads. You will know who you're supposed to have. So grab that roll book. Out those stairs, you will then be on Muncie Avenue, which is, if you're facing the church, it's the one without the traffic light, okay, the other way. And then down the street is the Asbury United Methodist Church, and they have opened their doors to us. They are a safe haven for our children. So we can take our children right into their church, into their lobby, if we have any emergency here. If you have a crazy parent, who I would be one of, I would be the first one saying, oh my gosh, I have to make sure my own children are safe and I'm running down those stairs. Take me with you, okay? Don't let me take my child in that panic back up into the mayhem up here and have them lose the child somewhere on the way out. They should go with you all the way to the designated emergency area, and then you can release the child the same way you do here, cross them out in the roll book so that you know you release that child to an adult and you're not crazed later going, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, where's Johnny? Where is he? You know, and because it's going to be crazy, okay? If you, with the emergency call system, one thing I will tell you, if you are downstairs and there is an emergency that doesn't require like a single parent, it's an emergency. There's somebody down there being disruptive, somebody trying to take a child who shouldn't be taking a child during service time. The call number for that is 99. Okay, it is the last number you can put into that machine. It's a 2-digit machine. No one will ever have that number. So the board, the staff, ushers, people who work as ushers know that. So if 99 comes up in that box, you will have all hands on deck. We will be making our way down there and making sure that you have the help you need if it's a bad situation. If you're in the lower auditorium with Children's Church, and you've got like a couple leaders in there, your helper should be the one going and putting the number in. As the main leader, you have control of the room. You would be the one dealing with whoever's in there giving the problem, and the helper would be the one going to put the number into the box, okay? All right, general safety things. We do not administer medications. We have even stopped giving out things like ibuprofen or Tylenol in youth group because we do not know what that child or teen has taken before they have come to us. So if they have taken 3 ibuprofen 30 minutes before they ask you for them and they say, I normally take 3, in 30 minutes now they have taken 1,200 milligrams of ibuprofen. Okay, now that may not hurt some people, you know, someone the size of Pastor Dave or Jason, you guys might be able to take 1,200. It might turn your stomach a little bit, but it may not do too much to you. But if it's little Aaliyah back there, who's like this big, okay, and she's pumped 1,200 milligrams of ibuprofen into her system, we could have a real problem, okay? So we just don't. We don't go, you know, plus we don't know how the very safe drug we would be giving them could interact with something that they just took. All right, so we don't give out any medications anymore. All right. Off-premises activities, we have a permission form and / a medical release form. Those forms, if you're the one receiving those forms, it is better for us to not have a form than to have one signed by someone who's not the parent or legal guardian. Okay? So, like, if grandma is not the legal guardian, but she brings Junior on, well, Sharon, you bring your grandchildren. Okay? So, if Sharon brings any of her grandchildren and Pastor Mia hands her a permission form, she needs to take that home and have a parent sign it. She cannot sign it. She is not their legal guardian. Okay? So, she cannot sign that form. And honestly, we're helping the person out who would be signing it, because they are now making a false claim that they are the guardian of that child, and so that could put them in a lot of trouble. Should, we take, like, as for the teenagers especially, we take Johnny to the beach in New Jersey, and the neighbor who's brought him and dropped him off signed his permission form. Now the kid is in New Jersey, and the mother doesn't know where he is, and the person who signed his permission form is in big trouble because they let that kid go out of the state. We took him because we don't know. The name's on the permission form, right? The liability does not fall on us. It falls on the person who signed the form. So please do not accept forms that are not signed by an actual parent or guardian. Okay, flipping over. Communicable diseases, we've all lived through it enough, okay? We even cover epidemics and pandemics on the bottom of our page now. But read through that. Basically, if a kid looks sick, they shouldn't be with other kids. All right, that's the summary of that with communicable diseases. If they look sick, they shouldn't be with the kids, okay? Check them out, whatever. Mom and dad, I'm sure, will understand that they cannot be with all the other kids if they're sick. All right? Any questions? I know I'm trying to push and go fast. So, Jason. For what do you mean? We have not given out in youth ministry from my direction. We have not given out any over-the-counter drugs. Probably 2 years now. 2 years, maybe 3 years. Now, I will say, because we do have parents who volunteer in youth ministry, if your child needs an ibuprofen and you don't have one and you come to me and you ask me for one, I will give it to you. I don't want to know who you give it to. If it's your own kid, please don't give it to another student, but like if it's your own kid, you're giving your child medication. That's not a problem. At the youth camp, they make you check off what your kids are allowed to have. So at youth camp, if your kid has a headache and they need a Tylenol and it's checked off on their form, they're going to give them a Tylenol. But because we do not have that kind of constant control of the kids, that's why we have stopped doing it. Just because of reports and stuff that have come out with drug interactions and poisonings and everything else, we just felt it was better to step away from that. Okay? Any other questions? Yes. Right. What I have seen, and just to let you know, I have seen permission forms come in where it will say, Charlotte Sicilioni, parents or guardian, Heather and John Sicilioni. On the bottom, there's a signature from, Cheryl Kundla. What? Like, who's Cheryl Kundla? Oh, well, I'm the neighbor, and I brought them to youth group tonight. No, we just chuck those forms. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I just throw them out and tell the kids they don't have a permission form, because I just don't want Cheryl to get in trouble for signing off for this kid whose parent may not even know they're there. Okay? So, but I understand, like with foster families, with step families, I do look for those things to match up. If you're writing your name on that legal parent or guardian line, and then signing your name, then I don't have any way to check that. I mean, you can't go by, they don't have the same last name. because families are blended. There's all kinds of reasons why that child may not have the same last name as the guardian. So they may be living with grandma, and grandma may not have the same last name. So, but yeah, that's when I chuck them, is when they have one name as the legal parent and guardian and then some totally different name signed on the permission form as the person who's saying it's okay for them to be there or go there or whatever. So, okay? Anybody else? All right. Okay, moving on to page 8, Early Childhood Department ECD guidelines. The new item there is about when you arrive, silence and put away your cell phone, give the kid your undivided attention. One note there for the ECD on Wednesday nights is that parents are in the fellowship hall on Wednesday nights, so there is no call system in there. So you would have to ask your helper to go and get the parent if you needed the parent. Okay, so that number is basically on Wednesday nights just for check-in and check-out. It will not call the parent. Okay? All right. It does talk about diapers and who can drop them off and keeping the rule of 3. There are a lot of repeated things. So if you want to read through those and have any specific questions, same thing with the children's ministry for the clubhouse. Pastor Mio or myself would be happy to answer any questions. Oh, there. That's whose shoes they are. Hi, Charlotte. She's a pip. Okay, so we're going to move on to page 10 for youth ministry guidelines. And guess what, guys? We're almost done. Again, the new thing, silence your cell phones. Now, in youth ministry, we try to get the teenagers, especially when we're in our service, we do a lot of fun things, like things that they don't necessarily have to participate in. When we're doing worship and our actual service, we want them to pay attention. So we try to tell them, guys, hey, put your cell phone away, take your earbuds out, whatever they're wearing in their head now. They have all kinds of names. But if you're asking them to do that and they see you sitting in the back by the wall on your phone, guess what? You've lost all credibility with that kid. And when they need you to minister to them, or they need an adult to minister to them, you will not be the adult. Because they don't want to hear anything you have to say, because the rules are for the kid and not for them. All right, so let's just practice what we preach, my dad used to say. And if we're telling them no phones during crucial times of the event or the evening, let's honor that ourselves, okay? Something to keep in mind too, because we do deal with, like Jocelyn's in the room tonight, so I'll pick on her. She's a graduating senior, and but she's been 18 since November. Is that correct? So she's been 18 since November. She does not, in that year, become an adult, because if she becomes an adult in that year, she now needs clearances to attend youth group. So we have stated in our manual that all students are considered minors until August 31st of their graduation year, regardless of their age. Okay, so when Jocelyn goes on an event from November to August 31st, which I don't think she'll even be here that long. She's going to be gone to college. But anyway, I won't cry right now. She cannot sign her own permission forms. She can't do any of that stuff. We consider her a minor. And if we didn't do that, like I said, every 18-year-old senior, we would need to run clearances on in order for them to continue to be part of the youth group. So that is why our policy is that they remain a minor on our books until August 31st. Okay, a couple points to hit quickly. Youth leaders are mentors, not counselors. Okay, so please, unless you have a degree in counseling, please do not counsel the teenagers. If they need a professional counselor, please let us know. We have lots of recommendations that we can give you so that they can get professional help. Okay? We talked about the firearms. Keep an eye on the kids when they're coming in, because they may be carrying stuff. Pastor Dave always, except when he goes through airport security, because he's learned, has a pocket knife on his pants. Okay, he's taking it out right now, so we're all safe because he has a knife. But you know, we trust Pastor Dave to have a knife. We have a young man in youth group who likes to collect swords and knives and things like that. We're not going to let him do show and tell at youth group, okay? He's not going to bring his big blade to youth group. We're kind of going to confiscate that at the door and say he can have it on the way home. All right, so just keep your eyes open because you never know. You know, we don't have a lot of like backpack rules or things like that. We like the kids to feel comfortable being here and things like that. And so, but just be vigilant. Just keep your eyes open because if we don't have weapons and they do, they kind of have the advantage. All right. So we want to make sure that we're being vigilant. We talked already about youth leaders not spending time alone with minors. And about private text messages and things like that. It really is not hard if you need to send a text message and it's going to have you're going to have minors in there to just include one other youth leader. Just stick one other person in there just for accountability so that you're protected. That protects you. Those rules are in place to protect you. Once a minor has arrived, they are not permitted to leave before the scheduled end time without the expressed parental or guardian permission. So if some student says to you, hey, I have to leave early tonight, say, awesome, no problem. Just have your parent or whoever come to the door when they need to pick you up. Or let the parent talk to you on the phone and say, you know, I'm going to be picking Johnny up at 8 o'clock or whatever. All right. So if they leave without permission, we need to immediately notify a guardian that they are no longer on the premises. All right. So if anything happens to them, they know exactly when they were no longer our responsibility. And I think that is all. If you turn to the very last page, you will see that it says complete and return this copy. The entire manual is yours except for that page. I need that last page just to have on file to say you received all this information, we explained all this information, and you have been now officially trained. Lucky you. And that is all I have, and it is 6:50. Woohoo! Pastor Dave, do you have anything you want to wrap up? Yeah, and all your completed papers you can bring back to where you came in, and I will collect those from you and give you your gift. Thank you again for being here tonight. Yes. Johnny is here, and he will notarize for you. Thank you, Johnny.